Thanks to the 1989 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game in the arcades, a lot of other superhero and comic book themed beat 'em ups have followed. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, Alien vs. Predator, The Punisher, X-Men, and of course, Captain America and the Avengers. Now, I was a huge Marvel fan in the early to mid 90s. Now, despite that, I have never gotten around to checking this one out until fairly recently. Is it worth a look? Is it any good? Why should it go well? Let's find out. In this game, you can pick from one of the four members of the Earth's mightiest superheroes: Cap, Iron Man, Hawkeye, and Vision. Then you battle your way through the perils laid out before you by the Red Skull. This Sega Genesis version saw release in 1992, about a year or so after Data East's Cabinet debuted in the arcades. Visually, the game is kind of underwhelming to say the least. Not terrible, but we all know the Genesis is capable of much more. There's a bit of art that was also omitted from this version, which was present in the arcades and in the Super Nintendo. The music, though, in my opinion, is very good, tastefully arranged, and stays very true to the source material. The voices here are fairly typical for the Genesis. Scratchy as all heck, but that's what you got. Surprisingly, the Genesis version has more sound samples than its Super Nintendo counterpart. The gameplay here is pretty basic, just as a beat 'em up should be. The levels are pretty decent length, and you encounter both mid and end bosses as you make your way through them. There are 3 levels, which mix things up by having shooter sections which take place in the air or underwater. Naturally, Iron Man and Vision can fly, but Cap and Hawkeye need a rocket cycle and personal watercraft. These sections, I think, are really fun as they provide a break to the beat-em-up monotony. The story is fairly typical licensed game fare. Here, the Red Skull, one of Captain America's best-known enemies, has a ridiculous plan to take over the world involving a big laser cannon built on the moon. He's somehow convinced a mixed bags of other Marvel villains to aid him in this effort. I can kinda see some of them working for the Red Skull, but others like Ultron or maybe even Mandarin were either close to or higher than Red Skull's level in the food chain, if you ask me. Then there's that laser cannon. That sounds like he's gonna want some sharks with frickin' laser beams, or maybe a clone of himself that's 1/8 his size next. You can really tell the Marvel writers had nothing to do with the plot, but that's okay. Because this is not a comic book, it's a beat-em-up game from the arcades, and solid action is what matters more in this instance. But does the game deliver? You know, I think it does. While it's definitely not the best beat-em-up game I've ever played, you can surely do a hell of a lot worse. Each of the 4 characters play a little differently from each other, but Captain America is probably the best of the bunch. He definitely has the best ranged attack, which more often than not hits enemies twice, which gives him a huge advantage. Aside from some of the questionable use of the villain characters, the Avengers are presented quite well, and I really like the use of the other Avengers as cameos, including Quicksilver, Wonder Man, Wasp, and Namor. It is quite nice to see them as supporting characters in the game. I will be completely honest with you here, you can do a lot better when it comes to beat-em-up games out there, especially on the Genesis. But still, I kinda like this game. It has a certain charm to it. The music, I think, is really great, has this fun, heroic flair to it. And those shooter segments are a lot of fun. Now, if you want to check it out, I think it is definitely worth your while. It's only about 15 bucks for a loose cart, maybe as much as 20. I wouldn't go too much higher than that. Super Nintendo version is about the same price. It looks a lot nicer, but this one, I think, plays a bit better. Now, that's of course my opinion. You're entitled to your own. And let me hear one of your opinions now. What are your favorite superhero games out there? Leave a comment down below. Hope you've enjoyed the review. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.